What's going on, everybody? It's your big homie, the armchair operator, and welcome to today's video. Now, if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed today's content, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, become a part of the family. We would love to have you. And if you're coming back to my channel, thank you so much for coming back. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you also enjoyed today's content. So today we're going to do a tabletop review of the Sig P320 Flux Legion, as you see right here. But before we get into that, a couple pieces of housekeeping. First and foremost, I got to give a huge shout out to the team over at the Bunker Gun Shop for always supporting the channel. My guy Chris, my guy Frank Bank, the entire Bunker 1 and Bunker 2 team. Thank you so much for always supporting the content on this channel. The second piece of housekeeping, I am not offering up for sale any firearms or accessories on this channel. All of my videos are strictly for informational and educational purposes only. Now, with those two important pieces of information out of the way, let's dive into this Flux Legion. So the P320 Flux Legion is a collaboration between Flux Defense and Sig Sauer. And basically, they took their already existing chassis system for the P320 and turned it into a full-fledged firearm. So this is actually a pretty interesting gun. We're going to get into the specs and the features a little bit, but as you can see, it's essentially an oversized handgun, kind of, sort of, for all intents and purposes. And with that, there are some definite advantages and drawbacks to this design. Now, I am going to do what I normally do. We're going to slide on over to the tabletop. I'm going to go over the specs and features of this particular firearm really quickly, show you how the ins and outs of it. Then we're going to cut away, going over to the range portion of the review. Then I'm going to show you the firearm in action. And then we're going to come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, so without further ado, let's head on over to the review space and take a more in-depth look at the P320 Flux Legion. All right, y'all, welcome to the review space. We have the P320 Flux Legion down here on the tabletop, and what you see is pretty much what this particular firearm will come with the exception of the Sig Romeo 4T that's mounted on the top Picatinny rail. But before we get any further into this, we got the verify clear. Y'all know how I do. So as you can, I don't know if you can see that, but firearm is clear. There's no magazine in the gun. And this firearm is verified clear, and we are in a safe and controlled environment. I do not have any live ammunition anywhere in the review space. Now, on to this particular firearm here. So as you can see, we have it comes with two magazines, two standard capacity 30-round magazines. And for most of y'all that know, but for y'all that don't know, loading this particular firearm, you basically insert the magazine into the grip just like you would do with any other handgun, but you also have a place to store your extra magazine in the front here. So this is not a vertical foregrip, which I think is also pretty interesting that they have it etched on the side of the firearm right here for those boys from alphabet agencies that like to get all bent out of shape. Yeah, not a vertical foregrip at all. Now, I would not advise using this thing as a vertical foregrip. But anyway, that's one of the dope features about this particular system, that you can store your extra mag on the firearm itself. So that's really cool. All right, so let's talk more about the features. But y'all know where I like to start. I like to start with the sights. So wait a minute, let me get this out of here real quick, just so that it make life a little easier. Okay, so you do have iron sights on the top of the slide here. You have your standard height Sig X-ray day/night sights, and this particular slide is cut for your optics. So I think that's really cool. And then of course you have the integrated compensator in the slide, and y'all, is basically the same way as far as most Sig Legion platforms, where the barrel stops a bit shorter than these two chambers to give it that integral compensated effect. So even though this is a full-size slide, you're basically running with a 3.9-inch barrel. So if it looks a little short, that's the reason why. So you got a 3.9-inch barrel, just to give you that extra bit of recoil mitigation when you're running this particular firearm. And of course, it is red dot ready. In case you didn't know, Sig slides are generally cut for the Delta Point Pro footprint, which their handgun red dot sights all follow that same footprint. So you could throw your Romeo Pro or your Romeo X's or whatever on here if you wanted to. The only thing about that, because of the rear part of the chassis system, I really don't think you'll be able to use that red dot on this particular frame. But of course, with the P320 being a modular handgun platform, you could easily take this slide off and put it on another P320 frame if you wanted to. So you do have that option. Let's see what else we got. We got a Picatinny rail up top here, and as you can see, we got the Sig Romeo 4T mounted on the top. This red dot, believe this red dot has a 3 MOA dot, really clear, crisp glass. I don't know if I can get it on the camera there. It's kind of difficult. Yeah, I'm really not having, take my word for it, it's nice and clear. And plus, this is the one that has a solar power strip on the side, and it takes a single CR2032 battery compartments right here, and you have your windage and elevation adjustment, and of course you have your standard controls over there. Nice tactile to get the job done. Okay, now the good thing about the Flux Legion is that you don't necessarily have to mount a red dot up here if you don't want to, because you do have like this little cutaway here, this little channel. Can't really get it to focus all that well on the camera. Maybe you can see it just a little bit. But you can see, there you go, you can see your sights through there. So you can get a sight picture if you want, but just know that you're going to kind of have to get really down and close in on the firearm if you want to use those sights, but you do have the option of running this with iron sights. Moving on from there, let's see. Now this particular firearm is used, okay? So this Sig gas pedal will not be on yours if you purchase this firearm new. It'll have the standard Sig takedown lever here. The person who previously owned this particular firearm installed this. So I mean, it's a cool gas pedal. Like, you can kind of grip it like this if you want to get that extra bit of stability if you do not want to use the pistol brace. So I mean, that's cool. Me personally, I found myself kind of using this Picatinny rail section up here as kind of like a little ledge when I was manipulating the firearm. Speaking of Picatinny sections, we have 3-position Picatinny rail up front, and typically these little cutaways here, they look like they're M-lock slots. So you can buy these little Picatinny rail sections and install it onto the Flux Raider and just give you more Picatinny rail space, which I think is pretty cool. It makes it easier to mount a light, and me personally, I would mount a light either here, probably here, so that way I could use that momentary order, just push it on. Like if I'm running an X300, I could just push it like that and just keep it moving. Or if I'm running a TLR1, I could just put the switch down with the momentary on to keep it going. Or even a TLR7 sub. I mean, it's small enough, it could do the job just fine. Actually, that might be the preferred way to go, me personally. Anyway, moving on from there. So getting back to the control set, the control set is obviously different from your standard P320 because of the chassis system here. So let's look at the magazine release. So here's a magazine release. We actually got a magazine release here. We also have a magazine release right here, and we also have a release here. Now here's how it works. You can manipulate the magazine release right here by hitting that. Boom, magazine comes out of the firearm. That's all well and good, what we're used to, right? Now when it comes to this button here, I don't know if you can see this button here, you can use it to drop both mags, or you can use it to drop just the one mag. So to drop just the one mag, you just got to give it just a little bit of pressure. Boom, see? One mag. This mag is still in the gun. So if I put that in there, now if I want to drop both mags, just push it all the way down. And it'll come out the gun. It's kind of difficult to show because I have it on the side here, but let me try it like this. Let me try it like this. Yeah, see, there you go. Drops them both out of the gun. So if you're on the range or whatever, or if you're using the firearm and let's say you want to do like a combat reload, so to speak, this particular one runs dry. The way it's supposed to work is you use this, drop the slide, and you're back in business. So I think that's a really cool system. That's what the Flux Legion and the Flux Raider is known for. The other thing we have an external safety, which is ambidextrous. So that brings me to my first gripe with this particular platform. Now, this is just a personal preference thing. It's not a functional thing. It has an ambi safety. Right now it's on fire. Well, right now it's actually on safe. So you see safe, so it's on safe. Now it's on fire. That's cool. Problem is for me with the ambidextrous safety, this you see where my hand kind of lands, it's almost like it's over top of it. It's not that big of a deal when it's on safe, but when it's on fire, it's a little noticeable, and it does dig a little bit. It's not the end of the world. It wouldn't stop me from acquiring this particular platform, but it's just something to consider. But either way, it's functional. Now, I would say for the lefties, this really wouldn't help me any because I'm a right-handed shooter. But for the left-handed shooters, you know, they thought about you, so that's cool. And of course, you have the ambidextrous slide catch that you typically see on most of your P320s nowadays. All right, now let's talk about this pistol brace. So as you can see, we got QD point here. We also got a QD point right here, but we got a QD point right here on the back of this. So how you deploy this brace, right? This lever right here. I don't know if you can see that. Let me try it like this. All right, so this lever right here. So you just push it down, boom, shoots it right out. So it's spring loaded and it automatically locks in place. To get it to collapse, you just push and hold, give it a little tap or push it in. Let it go. Now this spring, when you first buy this platform, this spring is stiff as hell. So I'm just letting you know. So you're just going to give it just a little bit of force and lock it in. As you can see, it locks back into place. So I think that's really cool. It gives you like that rapid deployment feature, which honestly I wish that other firearms had, but we're not going to get into that. So I think that's pretty cool. And also, of course, this is a modular platform, so you can remove the FCU and all that and do all that fun stuff, which you can do with the P320 platform. The other thing that kind of gets me is this. So this is the dust cover. And as you can see, the slide doesn't come, it stops short right here. This negative space kind of annoys me just a little bit, more so from an aesthetic standpoint. However, the way I look at it as is probably designed to give you like a little bit of extra space if you need to use it as to brace the firearm onto something, maybe to lock the brace into place. I can imagine it would be difficult for some people. You know, you could just push this thing against a hard surface and collapse it in and lock it in. The other thing is, if you want to run, say, a threaded barrel with an external compensator or a suppressor. So if you do that, it will really fill out that negative space. The only problem with that is the minute you do that, you're going to lose the function of the ports right here. So it's just kind of like a give and take type of thing. Honestly, I just kind of wish the slide was just a little bit longer so that it would be flush, but to each his own. Like I said, it doesn't affect the functionality of the gun. This is just my particular opinion on the aesthetics of this particular firearm. So with all of that being said, what is this particular gun made for? Well, for starters, I kind of look at this as like the ultimate backpack gun. Like, I'll give you an example. So this bag is the bag that I use for my Vault-Tec safe, right? This thing is small enough where if you want to, you can easily just sit this inside of this bag, right? It fits, it's nice, neat, and keep it trucking. And as you can see, the bag itself is just not all that much bigger than like a fanny pack or shoulder bag. So easily you could just get in there real quick, get it out of there. I know that wasn't real quick, but you get the idea. You can just put it in there, get it out of there, boom, and do what you need to do. Now, they do make, this particular bag is not designed for that, but they do make bags that are purpose built for that purpose. So that's one of the biggest advantage to the Flux Legion. Because like, all right, for example, if you want another illustration, this is my P320 DH3. Want to verify clear, firearm is clear, it's empty, we in a safe controlled environment, like I said before. All right, bet. So what we got here, that's what I mean. The Flux is like a giant handgun. See, this is the 320 here, the DH3, right, which is a little bit larger than your standard M17 or standard P320, and then you got the Flux Legion. So it's a very compact PDW style package. And like I said, it does have its pros and its cons. But anyway, let's cut away to the range portion of the review, and I'm going to show you how this particular thing operates on the range, and then we're going to slide back on over here to the review space and then close it out.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the range portion of the review. I have the Fluxerator down here on the table next to my P320 DH3. So all we're really going to do is get a feel for the Fluxerator on the range. I already checked the zero. The zero is looking good. I got the target up there at 10 yards. And let's just put some rounds on range and let's get a real good feel for this guy. All right, so let's do it. One thing I will say about the Fluxerator right off the hop, it will take the 17 round P320 mags, unlike my DH3, and that's just because of the mag well. Nice little pistol. Loud as all to be damned because of this integrated comp system going on here. Feels pretty good. I like it so far. Let's load up and go again. All right, so we loaded up and we're going to throw it again. Trigger wise, it's pretty much the same as a DH3 style trigger, their X series style of trigger. It's okay. Breaking in around about 5 pounds-ish, but once this particular firearm begins to break in, it should start to break in more around the 4.5 to 4 pound range like my DH3. So now we're going to use the 23 round mags in this thing. All right, now let me see if I can use the mag reload system and not screw this up. Bad at all. Let's check the target. So this is basically what we're working with at roughly 10 yards. My initial thoughts on this thing, I think it's good. I think it'll make for an excellent backpack gun. Basically, it's built on the 320 platform, so for the most part, it's going to run. What I would like to add is that, and maybe this is just me, it gets hot pretty quickly because of that compensator on the front, and because I'm so close to the thing, you know what I mean, because it's so small. But if you're talking about something as far as home defense, self-defense, or PDW, something like that, that's pretty much irrelevant. But we're going to put some more rounds to it and really test the reliability of this thing. So far, I think it's a pretty good pickup. But let's put a fresh target up there. We're gonna push it out further to 15 yards, get a fresh mag loaded up, and then we're gonna do it again. All right, we loaded up, we're about to do it again. Real quick, you know what would be dope? If this thing had a fun switch. If you know what I'm talking about. If this thing had a fun switch, it'd really be fired in, boy. But anyway, let's get these YouTube compliant magazines in there. And let's do it again. All right, let's check the target. Hit high for the most part, but it was pretty much where it needed to go. Some flyers on the side there. One of the things I do like to do, I like to go for a small target at distance, because I figure if I can hit a small target at distance, I can hit a larger target at distance. But accuracy-wise, definitely got no issues. I will say this though, that little stabilizing brace, while it's cool and all that, after about 2 full magazines, you might start to feel a little bit in your shoulder. But again, you're talking about self-defense situation. I don't think you're going to be running 60 rounds or 20 rounds or however many rounds. I pray that you never have to be in that situation, but you get where I'm going with this, right? But anyway, let's load up and let's push it out to 25 yards. And let's do a little bit of slow fire and focus on accuracy. Now, one thing to note about the ergonomics of this firearm, it's essentially a pistol with a piece of plastic stuck to its behind, right? So you see how I'm real tight with it? While it's not a deal breaker or anything like that, from our larger stature people, that's just something that you want to consider. But at the same token, you got to remember this. This is essentially viewed as like kind of the ultimate backpack gun, just because it's so small. So if you're looking for something, say a little bit larger, like an SP5 or maybe an SP5K, maybe you want to steer more towards that direction. But personally, the way I'm looking at this right now, I think that would be an excellent complement to those firearms. But enough talking. I got the target at 25 yards. Let's see how well I can do with the target at distance. Joker getting hot. Let's check the target. So it's kind of hitting high and a little bit to the right for the most part. So, but I mean, basically for the most part, I hit what I was aiming at. One thing I didn't expect is this thing is actually getting a little spicy, man. It's a little hot. I felt it singe my finger a little bit. And I think it's because of the integrated comp system that you have with the Legion package. It's a flat shooter. Return to zero is awesome, but just be aware of the increased noise level, and from the looks of things, even just a little bit increased heat level. All right, so to round out the range portion of this review, I got two magazines loaded up, 20 rounds each, and we just gonna mag dump it, man. Let's just have some fun with it, close this out. All right, so let's do it. All right, I'd like to see it. Here we go. Woo, outstanding. Now, granted, the target was at 7 yards, but think about it like this. If you got this thing in your nightstand and somebody decided they want to kick in your front door at 2 in the morning, they're going to have a problem. So, anyway, that's going to be it for the range portion of this review. Let's head on back to the review space and close this thing out.
And we are back. So, as you can see from the range footage, the 320 Flux Legion runs reliably. The recoil mitigation of the integrated compensators built into the slide with that little shorty barrel works out pretty good. I didn't have any issues, like I didn't have any feeding problems or anything like that, no malfunctions of any kind in the few range sessions that I've ran through the P320 Flux Legion. And I think it's a pretty dope platform, I'm just going to say that. Now, one of the things that I always keep in my mind, like whenever I'm purchasing a handgun, is what is its intended purpose? Because I say that all the time. Anytime somebody asks me, you know, what firearm they should get, first gun, new gun, next gun, whatever, my first question is, what is the purpose of this firearm? So, when I look at something like this, I automatically think a PDW, something that is a bit more capability than a standard handgun, but not quite up to, say, like a rifle caliber, like an AR or something like that. Now, the thing about that is, first of all, we're talking about handgun rounds. So pistol calibers, their biggest drawbacks is essentially their terminal ballistics downrange, especially when you're comparing them to a rifle caliber. Simply put, pistol rounds are inferior to rifle rounds ballistically. That's just the way that it goes, right? However, you still have other firearms that operate in the same vein as the P320, and I'll give you an example. Like, one great example is this Military Armament Corporation Mac 5. So we're going to verify clear. Let's see. Empty. Empty. This firearm is clear. Put this back in for aesthetics. All right, so when you look at something like this, now this particular firearm is also chambered in 9mm. It is a roller delayed style platform that is obviously based on the H&K MP5 SP5 platform. It has the same capacity. You have 30 round magazine in here. It also has a brace, so this is a braced pistol, but you can also shoot it without it. And as you can see, I have an Omega 9K installed on the front, so you can run this suppressed. Now, this firearm is substantially larger and heavier than the Flux Legion here, okay? This firearm also has roughly twice the barrel length. This is an 8.3 inch barrel, while this is a 3.9 inch barrel. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, because with a longer barrel, you're going to get greater expansion and better terminal effect downrange, even with a pistol caliber. So this particular firearm is going to expel the projectile faster, slightly faster than this particular firearm will. Now, we're not talking about trying to hit targets at 300, 400, and 500 yards with something like this, or even something like this, because that's not really what they're designed for. These are more like personal defense weapons, you know, self-defense ranges, home defense, things like that. Okay. And they both have braces, so you have more points of contact. Now, the thing of it is, this particular firearm, though it's heavier in their roller delay system, it is much softer shooting, even though it doesn't have any built-in compensators or anything like that. And with it being a bit larger, it also kind of makes it a little easier to manipulate in certain circumstances, okay? That being said, its size and weight also makes it more difficult to operate in certain circumstances. Furthermore, this big old thing is not fitting in that little small bag that I showed you earlier, but this thing can. So I say all that to say this. What you want to do, you want to consider what you want to use your tool, what the purpose of your tool is what I'm trying to say. Consider the purpose. Now, I would argue that something like an MP5 or an SP5 or maybe even a CZ Scorpion or something along those lines, in a way give you more capability than, say, the Flux Legion, just from a ballistic standpoint, period, right? Some may find it a little easier to manipulate because it's a larger firearm. Now, that being said, there are those who would find this much easier to manipulate because it is a smaller, lighter firearm. And the best thing about this, because it's so compact, it's basically the size of a pistol. You can carry this, you can conceal this. You will be a lot easier to safely store this in many different, you know, whether you're talking about a console gun or something in a locked compartment in your vehicle, truck gun, whatever your flavor is, or a nightstand gun, then say something like this particular firearm here. Now, I look at this as, if it were me, this would be the perfect nightstand gun, because you have 2 magazines at your disposal. So if you have an oh crap moment in the middle of the night or whatever the case may be, and you need to get, I call it, now this is just my jargon, I call it a quick reaction pistol. That's what I call my nightstand gun, so whatever. But anyway, this here, I can have it at the ready. If I don't have enough time to get to my primary home defense weapon, I can just grab this. I got this. I'll have a light on it, and I need to do what I need to do. I'm ready to go. Or if I need to use something like this to get to my primary home defense firearm, I can do that too. So in conclusion, I say that to say this. This particular firearm, this Flux Legion, is a very good gun. I really enjoy it, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, it's soft shooting. You can manipulate it very easily with one hand because, like I said, it's essentially just a pistol with a bunch of crap onto it, right? So in that regard, I think it's dope. I don't think it's a perfect platform. Like I said, the ambi safety is kind of annoying to me. I wish this could be removed and I could just, you know, use this particular one. But like I said, it's not the end of the world. This is a little unsightly, but it has some utility with it. So again, it's not the end of the world. You know, you do have the option of using backup iron sights, so I think that's really cool. They thought about that. You can't really use the red dot cut up here, the optics cut, that's what I'm trying to say, with the chassis system, because you're not going to be able to see it. But that's not really a big deal because you got a Picatinny rail up here. You could put a pistol dot up here, or you can put a rifle dot up here, or if you really want to get kind of ridiculous, you could put a prism dot up here. I mean, a prism optic up here. Not sure why you want to do that, but you could. But all in all, I would, oh, one last thing. So as you can see, this plate on the other side is like, there's no etching on it, right? And you got the firearm serial number over here. The reason why that is smooth is that if you want to SBR this thing, you could. So they thought about you on that note. So you could easily SBR this, you know, go through your NFA shenanigans to get that done. Get rid of the brace, get a stock on here, get that engraved, and boom, now you got yourself a nice little SBR. So This particular thing I think is dope. So let me know down in the comments what y'all think about the P320 Flux Legion. Let's talk about it. Are you thinking about purchasing one for yourself? Oh, and one last thing, Bunker has these, so if you're interested, you know what to do. But anyway, I'm going to end it there. Let me know what y'all think about today's video. And as always, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching. And this is your big homie, Armchair Operator. I'm signing out, y'all. Peace.